but there's still some argument to say it could have done more. Maybe if it knew earlier that there was such a significant problem, it could have done more. But so there is fair balance there. But this point about the extra revenue the NRL has generated from expanding. So the NRL has effectively expanded to Melbourne and New Zealand in the last 25 years. It's the only expansion we've seen.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm guessing Melbourne brings in a new TV audience and those sorts of things, but I've never seen it quantified. This is one thing. Like, I think it's still an idea that we can tap into the North American sports market, and we can't just give it up after 4 years if we do think that market's achievable. But we haven't got there yet, so it's kind of like, how much do the Super League clubs want to gamble? I think it's worth the risk still, but do you think it's worth the risk that revenue actually exists? I mean, we've seen 10,000 fans regularly going and watching, or regularly supporting the Wolfpack already.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the guy said that at the moment it's on a cable deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's perceived as quite a niche. It's with niche kind of European sports. This is the difficulty with TV deals. It was probably one of the only deals that was available to them at that point, because it was a slightly unknown product, and it's still, as you say, although it has a foothold, it's still a largely unknown quantity in a market that's dominated by US-based leagues. Your basketball and baseball and hockey, obviously. So I'm sure there is potential there, but as you say, it's an untapped market, and we're certainly not qualified to talk about the North American sports contract market. But
and how long it is on realising the extra revenues from that, whether it's worth the gamble or not, is one of the big questions, and always has been hanging over the whole thing.
Yes, and you have to. The trouble with separate media deals is that it's raising questions about who's entitled to which shares of funding, isn't it?
Well, it's completely nonsensical, as I wrote about in the blog post that we'll touch on when we get to the poll, for Super League clubs to shut Toronto out of like the European broadcast markets, but then expect some sort of cut of anything that they might get if they did get commercial deals in North America. So to me, giving Toronto the $2 million a year that they all receive is the only way of ensuring getting a share of the pie if the pie did increase by having Toronto in the competition. It's just whether the pie will increase by having Toronto in the competition is still slightly unknown, but you can't know that after 3.5 years.
No, you can't. The model you'd have to look at is what has happened with French TV deals and the in and out kind of relationship that Catalan have had. The way that has changed. That probably tells you something about the potential for a deal. But I think it's been difficult in France as well, hasn't it, to kind of secure something on a long-term basis.
Well, we can't build our revenue like plans around what TV deals we can get. That's not the sports market we're living and working in anymore that we were in 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago. So we need to be looking at other ways to increase our revenues, and that's by getting more people interested in the sport. And does Toronto Wolfpack get more people interested in the sport than any internal kind of promotion of the just strengthening the heartlands versus expanding? Which one gets more people interested in the sport? I would argue expanding does, and it's kind of obvious why.
Yeah, because as you say, it obviously opens up new markets.
But it's then figuring out how you deal with stuff, because traditionally we don't share other kind of revenue streams. You know, we barely share ticket streams, revenue streams.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't do any other sort of collective sharing of revenues, whereas really, you know, Wigan and Castleford and whoever would want a share of every Wolfpack shirt sold in North America, is kind of where I think they should be looking, rather than just about TV deals. But anyway, I'm going way off track now into sort of revenue generating ideas. But yeah, the NFL is rich, and there's a reason for it. They share fucking money between each other.
Yes.
Toronto Wolfpack owner David Argyle warned players he fears they will be kicked out of Super League following their withdrawal from the 2020 season. Argyle addressed the club's employees in a Zoom call following their decision to pull out of the remainder of the campaign, and he told the players he believes demotion to the Championship is the most likely outcome. He told them he expects a decision to be made within days rather than weeks. I think it'll come sort of in the middle of that range. The club cited astronomical financial challenges as the reason behind their decision to step aside, which we spoke about and the guys covered in the interview there. But Argyle conceded the repercussions could see them ousted from the competition next year. That would mean players' contracts would be null and void, and Argyle told the squad they were free to sign for other clubs as a result of the current situation, should they be able to find deals elsewhere. Argyle is understood to have told players there are 4 different scenarios. Their place in Super League is retained, that they have to return next season in either the Championship or League One, or the worst possible scenario would be that their licence would be revoked completely. We'll touch on the different scenarios a bit later on when we get to the poll after we've done the news, I think.
Yep. From the Super League's point of view, the executive chairman Robert Elston said the withdrawal of the Toronto Wolfpack was a big surprise and they could face sanctions after they pulled out of the season. Speaking to Sky Sports, Elston said, "It was a big surprise to us. We're aware of the rumours in the game that they weren't fully aligned with what we were hearing from the club. The club's attempts to get to the start line in 2020 were very genuine, and only as late as last Thursday we got verbal assurances they were going to be ready. In that sense, it was a surprise, but there were mixed messages out there, so we were very much alerted. So late in the season is not helpful to us right now." And you're in the way there. So right now we're picking up the pieces and dealing with the consequences.
What about the sort of... I mean, I've cited quite a bit in kind of my issues with that this has happened, because I'm pro-expansion, I'm supportive of, you know, a well-functioning Toronto being part of the structure at the top level. But the thing that really has wound me up about this is the timing and the lack of preparation that Toronto played in this. So I don't know what you feel about that.
The timing of it came across as Mickey Mouse when you are due to play a crucial match, possibly, you know, relegation-defining kind of match. 10 or 12, 12, 13 days in the future. It came across as particularly poorly organised, and that didn't. I don't think that helped anybody. If they'd said in April, May, look, we don't think we can restart, I think there'd have been a lot more sympathy around.
Do you think it was Toronto kind of knowing all along they were in this problematic position and thinking if we wait till the end, they'll have no choice but to help us, and playing a gamble on that when they'd probably, like I spoke to with the guys, undone a lot of goodwill that might have enabled them to get that help already, and then this just undid it further? You don't say on a Thursday we're in and then say on a Monday we're out, do you?
No.
After you've had 4 months to think about it.
Yeah, it's for somebody who's supposed to be a very shrewd operator, that doesn't sound like a very smart idea to me. That sounds like a massive gamble that I think is probably, would have been very unwise. 3
of the people significantly affected by this are the 3 Toronto new signings for the 2021 season who've all been offered to rival clubs following their withdrawal from the Super League, Total RL reported their understanding that Stevie Ward, Richie Myler and Ben Flower have all been made available to clubs in the aftermath of Toronto's division to sit out the rest of the campaign. All three players are represented by player agent Yestin Harris, who has also offered winger Matty Russell to rival clubs, despite him only recently signing a new deal with the Wolfpack. Club owner David Argyle told the club's contracted players that they are free to go and find another club for the rest of the season, and he will honour their contracts throughout that period. We talked about that last week, that he said he guaranteed the contracts, but hadn't been able to pay them for June and July yet, unfortunately, through liquidity issues.
Yeah, we all know how good Yestin Harris is at signing a good contract. So, moving on. Also in that boat is Callum Watkins, obviously signed earlier in the year but has yet to play a single game for them. He's also been offered to rival clubs by his management, who received an email to confirm that Watkins is open to offers.
Yeah, the Pacific Sports Management Group sent an email out, didn't they, to all the Super League clubs. Toronto owner David Argyle confirmed the club will release Sonny Bill Williams from his contract to take up a deal with the NRL champions for the rest of the season. SBW is signed to a 2-year contract with the Wolfpack, but Argyle says he will play for the club next season, despite the club being in a state of limbo as it stands. I think Bob Hunter has kind of come half a step back from that and said he can't guarantee that Sonny Bill Williams will play for the club next year in an interview in Toronto. But David Argyle told 9 News Sydney, fundamentally, all we're doing is using loopholes that could be orchestrated to get around with the intent. Sonny wants to play in the NRL for the remainder of the season and come back to the Wolfpack. How's it done? It's semantics. We're not playing in 2020, but we are playing in 2021. I think it's Sonny's right, and I think it's great for the game that he showcases his talents and be able to present his persona in Australia while we're not playing. I mean, superstars, big names, that's kind of easier for those guys to get onto something new in troubled times, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, yeah, of course, and he's landed at quite a nice place. But yeah, it's understandable that these players are going to need to find somewhere else to play, because it's I think it's unlikely that people who think of themselves as Super League quality are going to take the chance that they're going to be retained in Super League for 2021.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of clubs have said that they're not going to. Huddersfield and Leeds, I guess, have been fronting up to the press because they play at the weekend, but they've come out and said we're not looking to sign anyone new right now. So the opportunities might be limited for some of the Wolfpack's players, but I guess if they have to pull out altogether from the sport, it'll be like a North Wales situation back from 2012, where kind of players were able to go and get off-cap deals and that sort of stuff. But that's a concern to address, I think, once we know the longer-term future, isn't it? Yeah,
of course, yeah. Another idea that's been floating around that Argyle has been talking about is that he wants to turn the club into the rugby's Green Bay Packers and raise $10 million, around just under £6 million, through the sale of shares to supporters. He told the Times columnist Neil Davidson that the money generated will go into a non-profit vehicle in order to finance and safeguard the club's future. The Green Bay Packers are perhaps the world's most prominent and successful example of a fan-shared model in action. Argyle wants to replicate that by selling shares for $100.
Do you know what? The Australian isn't Barcelona similar? So obviously this has come from a North American source. They haven't cited either Hunslet or Rochdale for their recent fan ownership models, though.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's a model that can work. It helps if you're in one of the most successful sports leagues in the world.
Yeah.
The Australian also reaffirmed that the Wolfpack's receipt of their share of TV money is key to the club's future. Argyle says, we're 3.5 years in, we've built a platform, it's generated significant awareness in North America and around the world. It's too early to call an end to the project, because if rugby is truly going to become a global sport, it has to crack the North American market, which is the most lucrative sports market in the world. You won't need to ask your financial advisor, because this is a gut and heart decision, not a head decision. So as a global community-owned team, an expanded Green Bay Packer model. Your membership reflected through a share will assist. There are 800 million plus rugby fans in the world. We've tried to make great strides to achieve the goal, but there's no more firepower in my corner to get us through this season, let alone the following seasons, which is my failure. Interesting.
So it's kind of them putting